Welcome back to American Christian or Christian American. If you please hit that subscribe button and perhaps that like button, it would help get those videos out there. Today we're going to be talking, I'm going to be doing some paraphrasing and making some points about a famous woman in this country who fights against racism, Jane Elliot. Her, Tim Wise, and others who stand up for what's right in this country. And we all have a little different perspective. I take a little more from a Christian perspective. But she did an exercise, she calls it, because you don't experiment with people, but you have an exercise. After the assassination of Martin Luther King, she decided that she needed to do something. She was a teacher, elementary school teacher, and she started an experiment called Blue Eyes and Brown Eyes. And what she was doing is that she was separating the kids by blue eyes and brown eyes. And she's done this experiment with adults as well. And I'm going to focus on the adult part. She started with kids. She's a little more harsher with the adults, but she still did things with the kids in a way that she could make a point. And then she'd ask them questions, how they felt. So instead of being separated by the color of their skin, they were separated by the color of their eyes. And in her case, with the kids, she would do brown eyes were better than blue eyes, and then she would switch it so both sides got to feel what it was. And all her children were white children. But now she does it by separating blue eyes from brown eyes, and the blue-eyed people are the ones who get picked on to a point, or quite a bit actually. But it's an exercise to get people to understand how racism feels. In particular, I'm commenting on the episode that she did on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I believe it was 1992, if I remember the video right. Look it up. Just type in Jane Elliot. You should find the Oprah Winfrey Show and watch it. It is ideal. Now, if you're white, it's easy to take offense because that's what we do. But you have to understand the point. The point is that unless we get slapped in the face with something, we tend to ignore it because we can, because we have white privilege. That's what we do. And what's interesting is what she would do is, with the Oprah Winfrey Show, is they had them show up extra early because there's an experiment. So the brown-eyed people were treated really special and everything else. They were given donuts up in the upper room. The blue-eyed people were told rudely to stand over here. They had to put on these green collars, and they didn't get the donuts. They were kept waiting forever. And then when they finally seated in the audience, some of the blue-eyed people were seated on the floor. They didn't give them enough chairs. And they talked about the experiment saying blue-eyed people are less intelligent than brown-eyed people, and it's a proven fact. And people were just getting really upset. Finally, some people started catching on. Of course, the African Americans in the audience already figured it out really early if they didn't know ahead of time. And there were white people over there as well who had brown eyes. But the thing is that these people were so concerned about their how they were treated that they were missing the entire point of the exercise. Now, perhaps there were a couple in there. Some people got mad, just left, or they took off their collars defiantly. The idea of the collars, it was something you could notice. Where black people can't take off their skin color, they're always noticed. These white people could take off their colors. And you had people in there who were, one lady said again, well, last time we were in the show, we were treated so good and all this other stuff. This time was terrible. And even when the point was coming out, they were still focused on me, because that's how white people are conditioned. It doesn't mean that all white people are inherently bad people, although you can be if you just decide to mistreat people badly. But we are indoctrinated in this country from the time we enter the school system, and by our parents if our parents have unresolved issues, which most white people do. But especially in the school system, the way things go, they are subtle, but they are there, and they're ever present. They are continuous and constant. Our society is constantly putting down black people and putting up white people. And many of the things happen so it's not noticed. And a white person may say, well, I don't see it. You're not supposed to. That's the point. You can go on and live your life and ignore everything because you just don't care enough. Now, my question is, these people in the audience, yes, I would have probably been offended too if I had not understood what was going on. But because I've been exposed to certain things, I would have picked up on it fairly quickly. But even so, yes, I would have been offended being treated badly. I think anybody would. But once I understood the point of the problem, I wouldn't be anymore. Because I would understand that there is a point, that there's a point to be made here. But many of these people just didn't get the point, or they didn't care about the point. There were people there who were saying, I shouldn't have been treated like this. You're an awfully rude person. Well, what about those African Americans over there who can't change their skin color? There was one white woman who stood up, I have brown eyes, but I think you're a rude and terrible person, blah, 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 blah. And then an African American stood up in response to her and saying, what are you doing to change things? Because things are not changing. What are you doing? And that's the point. So many white people in this country are not doing a doggone thing. Yes, we have had more people who are doing things. That's true. But the majority of white Americans still, we are 70% in the country right now, declining, but still the majority of us do not care. You say, well, I care. Do you care enough to do something about it? Do you care enough to learn about it? Do you care enough to come out of your shell? Most? No. A few of us? Yes. But even when I have worked hard to learn, and I probably should have worked harder at times, I know this much. But compared to a person who puts himself in the shell, it's probably this much. Because I've made an effort to do it. That doesn't make me extra special. It means that I've made a decision to do what's right. That everybody can make that decision. All of us can make that decision. Will you? Now, have we improved since 1992? I think some things have, but the problem is right now, what we've been facing since Trump's first term and now his second term is the rolling back of the things that have been improved. And things are deteriorating and getting worse. White power is being exerted, is being asserted, trying to take back what they've lost, to take away diversity, equity, and inclusion, to try to claim that white people are the ones who are being persecuted. Oh, ridiculous. Grow up. White people are not being persecuted. I'm not saying that white people don't go through problems, but in everybody's problems, everybody who goes through pain should be recognized. Every person, every human being. I've gone through some terrific pain in my life. I got to the, levels of suicide, other things because of the traumas I faced in my life. And myself and anybody else who goes through that deserves to be treated with compassion. That's true. Here's one of the differences, though. Both white and black people go through those types of things in their life. But white people do not face that as a group. They face it individually. Where black people face it individually, and they face it as a group. And they face it because it has gone back throughout the years. Now, white people do have problems that go back through their families many times, depressions and things that carry on. Yes. But black people face it in all fashions, and the effects of slavery have been passed down that have not yet been resolved because they have not been given the opportunities to do so. And even when they carry down these traumas that have carried on from generation to generation, there's new trauma as a racist society continues to put on it. So I don't sit here and say, white people, you shouldn't ever have compassion when you go through some deep affective trauma. Every human being who goes through trauma, God loves you, and you should have compassion. But how can you sit here and think that you should have compassion, and then people as a group who go through a group trauma and an individual trauma, that you shouldn't give them compassion? I'll tell you why. Because just like on this Oprah Winfrey show, some of those people there were thinking, how dare you treat me rudely? As for them, well, they deserve it. That's part of the key here, is that they feel that they deserve to be treated that way, but I'm white. I don't deserve to be treated that way. Why? Every single person deserves to be treated with respect and love and compassion. Now come down to the heart of this. What is the heart that drives white people besides the racism and everything else? There is a fear amongst white people that they're going to lose the majority, and if black people get the majority, they're going to do to white people the same thing that they did to black people. On average, for the most part, black people don't want revenge. Like Jane Elliot says, how many of you would like to have revenge on a few white people? And they would raise their hands. But most of them, what they want is just equality, to be treated equally. And most black people don't want to treat somebody else with the way they've been treated. They just want people to start treating each other better. There are always a few in every group of people who will carry out hate, but that's because we're human. That's because we sin against God, because we don't deal with our issues. We don't deal with our anger. But as a group, black people don't want to take revenge on white people. They just want white people to stop acting like they're better than everybody else. What about you? I mean, really, you don't have to follow along with the group just because of the color of your skin. You see, when we live for the color of our skin, we live in unequal life. We live a life that's not complete. We're not meant to be that way. You're not meant to live like just because of the color of your skin. There is so much more to you. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about who you are as a person. You see, I'm not a white person, but nobody's white. This is white. This hand is not white. This is white. This hand is not white. I am brown skin. No, I didn't have any African American in my recent past, although all the way back, yes, like everybody. This is just a shade of brown. Caucasian people are a shade of brown skin, a very light shade, sometimes really light shade. But we are all a shade of brown. It means that I have less melanin, or to be specific, eumelanin, because we talked about early on, in fact, the first episode, that melanin is now categorized in different types. Eumelanin, meaning what makes your skin darker or lighter. Phenomelanin, which talks about the redness of the lips and other parts of your body. And there was another one that dealt with the inner parts, brains activity and stuff, and I didn't even deal with that. I dealt with the two, the phenomelanin, which is the redness part, and the eumelanin. And those two melanins together can form red hair and other things, but those control what the colors of our skin is, the colors of our different parts of our body are. All right? So we all have the same number of melanocytes, but we have different levels of eumelanin. Some people have a lot, which makes them some of the darkest complected people on earth. Some people have very little, it makes them the lightest people on earth. But we all have some type of brown skin. We have people who are so dark brown skin, it appears to be black, but really it's just deep, deep brown. So let's get rid of the myth that we're white. We're not. We just lightened up, lived in parts of Europe, and then we came here and other places. Let's just start thinking about things. You know, it's hard to be on top all the time. You have to fight. You have to work so hard to be on top. You have to act arrogantly, and you have to have your nose so far up in the air that you could drown. I mean, seriously, folks, we are just human beings. And if we all worked for the betterment of each other, we'd be better off. It takes energy to be a racist. It destroys part of your soul. And when people go to church and they hate other people and yet they sing praises to God, it really shows up. So many white congregations I've gone to and visited and saw, and when I used to be members of them, the spirit was just dead. That doesn't mean all of them are that way, but God is something to be celebrated. Now, even if you can't sing well, God is something to be celebrated. There are ways to celebrate him, to be thankful for him, to be joyful for him. Until the next time, on American Christian or Christian American.